There we go. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Adventures in DevOps. Warren, thanks for joining me again.
Yeah, I think you don't need to thank me every time I decide to show up. I know we said that we were going to have like maybe a cool fact at the beginning of every episode, and I try to come up with one. Although I do believe last time Jillian committed to bringing the fact, and I don't. Maybe it's a coincidence that she's just not here today. So I will have to step in and share something. I forgot the pin for my backup phone. And I didn't remember how many digits it was. And on Android, apparently, you can keep going forever. So I was on 150 attempts of trying to guess what this pin is, and it wasn't like I don't care about factory resetting it, but I just wanted to see like can I get it? And actually, 151, I finally got it. I had upped the pin size to 12 digits. And like that was like a realization for me. So if you forget your Android pin, just keep trying. There's no time. I mean, there's a 30-second timeout per attempt, but other than that, you can just keep going.
So is that like manual brute force attack? Is that the
Yeah,
category this would fall into?
yeah, for sure.
Right on. Cool. I'm excited about today's episode. Joining us today, we have Matt Lee from Schematical and from cloudwargames.com. I'm looking at your background here, Matt. Co-founder of drawnby.ai, author of shiporgetoffthepot.com, and then gymnastics coach for 18 years and out of Madison, Wisconsin. Welcome, Matt.
Thanks for having me. Yeah,
Yeah.
the shipper getoffthepot.com I'm not doing anymore, but I actually did write a book on coaching gymnastics called Hacking Fear: Tips, Tricks, and Strategies How to Help High Performing Athletes Through Mental Issues. So, fun fact.
Right on. My youngest son did gymnastics I think from when he was about 10 all the way up until his senior year in high school. And his senior year, I mean, you're probably well aware of this, like the number of collegiate positions for men gymnastics is very, very small. And so he knew that wasn't going to get him anywhere. And he wanted to participate in some kind of activity at school because for his entire education, he would get out of school. His mom would be waiting in the parking lot and she would drive him an hour to the gymnastics facility, and he would work out for 4 hours doing his homework in the car. And that was his life growing up. So his senior year, he wanted to do something that was school related. And that was the end of his gymnastics career. But it's a commitment, and there's so much mental to it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, it's not an uncommon story. Unfortunately, men's gymnastics is just not doing as well these days. Too many competitors to the sport, parkour, and other things.
Right, for sure. Yeah. And I think the commitment to it just kind of just like self filters, so that when you do get to those people that are there, like you've got some very committed individuals.
Yeah, you play football, you play soccer, no one plays gymnastics.
Right. Fair point. Cool. So tell us a little bit about, actually first, it looks like you've been in Wisconsin for a long time. Are you a Wisconsin native?
Yeah, born and raised, traveled the world, but I keep coming back here and about 4 years settled down, bought a house out in the countryside, a little north of Madison, and been loving it.
Right on.
Madison is fantastic. I lived there for 2 years, and I will say that I love being there in the summer. That's
Yeah.
the only qualifier that I'm going to say.
Summer and fall. Yeah, you get this time of year, not as nice.
What's your current temperature today?
Oh, it's actually really nice out. I was outside earlier. I let the dogs out and I do some jumping jacks to wake up, get myself ready for the podcast, and it's got to be around 10 degrees. So it's actually very pleasant compared to the 20 we were close to a week ago.
Yeah, that's balmy. Right on. So cloudwargames.com. Tell us a little bit about that.
And don't feel bad about messing with the games. I keep calling it Cloud Watch Games because I'm so used to I stay with Cloud Watch all day long in AWS, Amazon Web Services, and with Cloud War Games. Yeah. So this goes back a little bit, if you don't mind me going back. I had a team I was running. I think I had like 11 people on staff, and I needed to come up with a training idea, a project for that. So I've come up with a couple different games over the years and different tools to help out my devs. And so one of them was the predecessor to Cloud Board Games, which is where I would take a whiteboard and draw a network map. Let's not that one. And so I would do this Dungeons and Dragons style game with them. And what I did, besides just writing down all these different things, is I had hundreds of scenarios of things that had gone horribly wrong over the years that I would then throw at them. And I'd say something like, give them a brief, which would be like, all of a sudden your website's timing out. Why is that? And they'd have to walk through and tell me how they wanted to solve it. And so in this case, security group switch. Somebody removed a security group, which is basically a firewall rule from one of the various instances or resources running there, and it started to time out. So I've got all these other ones. Incident, cannot deploy. And so it's, you don't get a lot of information a lot of times when people come to you saying, there's a problem. Like half the time it's customer service person saying, our guys, our shopping cart is disappearing randomly for our e-commerce store. Like people, all of a sudden the shopping cart's empty. So using that and just their wits, and we just walk through it as if I was the dungeon master. And it was a pretty good training tool. You could really figure out who was, thinking outside the box, who was like really analytical, or who just kind of, I don't know, And it turned out to be a great sales tool as well. You walk the client through this, and they're like, that can go wrong. That's like, that can happen. You're like, yeah, it can. What would you do? I don't know. I guess I'd call you. All right. So that is how it started. Then, literally last Thursday, I was on a mastermind group, and I was talking about some goals I got. I was going to launch a community for people that want to learn AWS. And I was telling them about my idea for war games, which is where we spin up actual infrastructure, like AWS infrastructure, because we got infrastructure as code. It's not like I have to manually do this. So I just spin it up, and then I basically knock down a part of it, or fill up a database, or remove a security group, or something, or DDoS attack myself for the fun of it. And then people will, the participants, the hot seat participants, which people with their cameras on ideally, will be sitting there, and they'll be like, hey, they'll try and fix it, And there's a couple different variables. I've got a beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So like the beginner one, maybe they would just talk to me and I'll fix it on my computer screen. The advanced ones, I'll give them the actual AWS keys and say, here you go. Go ahead and fix it. And so there's just I'm trying to make it available to all ages. So I'm getting creative with it. But yeah, that was the impetus of, so Friday I bought the domain cloudwargames.com, and then I set it up and sent out a mailing list to my measly 100 subscribers, and had the biggest reaction I've ever seen. I've got people signing up, coming out of the woodwork. I have no idea who they are. And then I emailed you guys, and then you guys were like, hey, you want to be on? So here I am 5 days later, and it's going well.
Well, I'm glad it's going, so quickly for you. To have 100 different scenarios, that must have taken quite a long time. Like, I'm just thinking back throughout my career, and like, I don't know if I could come up with like 100 things that had gone wrong and have the whole scenario. I'm like, for sure, more than 100 things have gone wrong in my career. It's just, having remembered them or have written them down, like that must have taken some effort on your part.
I'm a compulsive, I think I showed you guys in the pregame, I'm a compulsive note taker and journaler and whatnot. I actually have multiple journals. I have a journal by the side of my bed, journal here, journal there. I've got business notebooks, I guess. So I piece it together, and if I'm not, if I write it down, there's another scenario. If something goes wrong, I also make a comic about it sometimes. So.
Right. Yeah. You shared some of your comics with us when we were emailing back and forth. Are those something you publish regularly?
I try and do them. I was doing them twice a week, but now that my content schedule's changed and I'm doing more video content publicly again, I'm probably only going to do once a week, but we'll see.
Right on.
That's still a lot. That's 52 a year. That's still a lot of content.
I'll be honest, they're not all bangers, but some of them take off. I printed out this was the first one that broke 100,000 views on Reddit, so
oh wow,
I was pretty happy about that. And this one was a banger too, but don't get the coffee cups yet. I got to work out the details on those. Don't quite look right yet.
So, do you find that through your, I mean, keeping journals of all of the different scenarios and what had happened, what went wrong, and how it was fixed. Like, did that have a beneficial impact for your career, or did you just find that you are able to consume that information now to make the cloud war games?
I mean, I had thought, and this idea I had thought about coming back to for a long time. So I have been keeping. I mean, a lot of times now, I mean, I would just write a deal to my daily emailing list. If there's something that goes wrong or something I hear about, here's one that I want to really run a scenario through the S3 ransomware attack that's out there right now. I'm gonna attack myself with that. That should be fun. But yeah, I write it down and mail it out, to people. So now, yeah, I guess collecting all that data has been helpful. I mean, in the last year, I've been better. I hired a business coach and I've been better at sharing that information. Before I'd write it down just because I obsessively take notes. And then now it's like I'm actually finding it and helping other people get updates on Amazon, get up there, on things I'm an expert in that I enjoy doing. So yes, I think it's got a beneficial impact, but I didn't really capitalize on that until fairly recently.
Yeah, I mean, the fact you just mentioned this, like, I can't believe I haven't been keeping track of every single bug that I run into that has some sort of, as it turns out, and then a story, because I feel like there is some novel, interesting thing there that is worth sharing. And now I'm starting to think, like, would I give this advice to even experienced senior engineers? Like, oh, you know what? Like, start keeping a personal journal of these sorts of things. I mean, I usually talk about it in a business context. Like, it's great to keep track of what you're doing from like a brag standpoint so that you can report on it during your hopefully quarterly performance evaluation. Like, you have a list already of everything you've done. And I think there's a lot to be said there. But I think there's another level here of, like, the interesting technical challenges that you had to face and how you sort of tackled them, because, like, you've already found a new opportunity based off of what you've written down to, turn into a business.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good habit to do after action reports, especially when you're training a junior or something like that. They make a mistake, a fairly expensive mistake, maybe. They delete something they shouldn't. And then you've got two options. You could slap on the wrist and say, you're in trouble, get out of here. Or you could say, what did you learn from this? We just, say I got a client, their website goes down, let's say it costs them $100,000 an hour. The junior takes down that website for a while. They can look at it like, oh my God, we lost all this money. Or you just say, oh, we invested this much into our junior learning an important lesson. Let's have them present that in an after action report to the whole team. So we got, there's a positive from it. You're writing the SOPs for the business, standard operating procedures for the business on what not to do. That's something I try and push towards my developers. Fail forward faster, know where to fail at, where you can make mistakes at. Fail on staging, nuke staging out of the water and slow down our dev for a day, or our dev team for a day. It still costs us less than if you nuke production for even a few minutes. So learn where to fail, learn how to fail. And so this is one of those rants you warned me about getting into.
I want to come back to something. There's been a couple things you've said that have stood out to me, and I want to come back to those, even though they have nothing to do with cloudwargames.com. You mentioned that you're in a mastermind, and then you also talked about your journaling, and those are two of, like, the consistent things that, like, if you study, like, high impact, high performing people, like, those two things come up over and over again. So how did you get into a mastermind, and what does that look like for you?
I'm actually in several, and we could do a whole other podcast on the consulting side of things and structuring your business, which I'm going to save for another time. But there's one where I am a group coaching where they do live Q&As and stuff like that, aimed at solo consultants, expertise, people who want to put themselves as expert. And I would never call myself the expert, but I've been doing this a long time. So that's a good one. I have direct access to the main community guy there. And the other one is the more round robin approach, where I found that one, I think, through another community, actually a third community, where it's actually got very limited interaction, but they do things. And I can give you guys the name of some of this stuff if you want later. But I'm actually starting, I'm hoping to start another mastermind group, but I've kind of deprioritized that for CTO, or for Cloud War Games. See, now I don't even remember the name of my own thing. Because that's got a lot of traction right now. But I would strongly advise that, especially if you're going out there and starting on your own and you're not part of a big team. If you're starting your own consulting, you need that sounding board. I'm very fortunate to have an informal business partner that we are always bouncing ideas off each other, because it can be, in a vacuum when you're trying to get clients, it can be, seem very daunting, seem very dark.
Yeah, for sure. I belong to a mastermind that I've been in for well over 10 years now. And it's been the difference in my career, because like our sole purpose in that group is to call each other out on our bullshit and hold each other accountable. And it's made a difference.
Yeah, we actually did a full episode dedicated to Will's being called out on his bullshit. I mean, his
because there's a lot of it. Like the guys in my mastermind, they have a full-time job calling me out on my bullshit.
Yeah, my most valuable people are the people that are the bluntest with me. That are willing to be like, stop building developer tools, you fool.
Right.
and giving them away for free. I think that's the important caveat there.
Yeah, so
for sure. And then on journaling, is that a daily exercise for you?
Yep. Let the dogs out, and then it's pretty much straight to journaling. And then I've recently been trying to do more journaling in the evening. Actually, to close the thought loop. I have a lot of trouble sleeping, and I wake up in the middle of the night, and I'm like, oh, all these things I should do. So right before I go to bed, I try and write down anything that's open-ended here and on a piece of paper, and I've got sticky notes on the side of the bed that I'll like write, to do, and that way I could like, okay, tomorrow Matt will get to this. I don't have to be thinking about it, and it lets me sleep at night. So it's a very strong tool for me.
Yeah, I think there were a non-trivial number of times where, in order to sleep well at night, I had to write up a whole email regarding a situation and then just not send it.
Not send it that night. Yeah,
that's the important factor there. Yeah, for sure. When you're frustrated, definitely don't click send. But it's because those thoughts are going around in your head, and it's like I'm constantly focused on whatever that is, whatever problem it is, whether or not I did the right thing in that situation. And sometimes I know from a fact now, I have to terminate those threads, whatever the thread is that I picked up and I started, just getting it done, whether it's writing an email. I use like every single kind of scheduling tool available. Like I will delay emails to myself. I will snooze them. I will send myself future emails. I'll use calendar events, anything to get stuff off of my radar and into some sort of temporal delay so that I can come back to it later when I'm like at the right time.
Yeah, that's a big one. You talk about, you're frustrated and you write that email. I when I get frustrated with something, or possibly even a colleague or something like that, I write it on a sticky note, and a month later it's a comic. So I just, that's how I do it. And I don't send it to them necessarily unless it's, funny.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Right on. So we'll come back to Cloud War Games. You've got people signing up for it. Is it like, are you operating at like scheduled head-to-head matches, or is it a single player experience? What's the interface look like?
I like to do it with small teams. So I'm thinking right now we've got 4 people in the hot seat. We're going to experiment with our initial batch. So that means I've got 2 events. 4 people can be on camera, mic's hot, and hopefully anybody else that wants to be in the wait list or whatever, the gallery, they can chat quietly. But like I said, I'm going to do 3 tiers of it. And in the future, I might do 4 people sign up for beginner, 4 people sign up for intermediate, 4 people sign up for advanced or something. But you can kind of just hang around if you did the beginner one, and you can listen to the intermediate and the advanced. But I don't want the advanced people solving the intermediate one instantly there. And so the way I do it is there'll be a let's just say it's an hour-long session. First 15 minutes, you get in there, you get your bearings. I'll send out network diagrams using my pixel art network diagram software that I use for my YouTube videos, and ahead of time, and I'll send up the Terraform ahead of time, so then people can get a feel for that. But then we get in there, maybe you set up your dashboards, you figure out your firefighting tools for the first 15 minutes, and then I do the brief, and I say customer service just called and said, that we just sent out. This is probably my first one. So preview for those of you guys, I don't know when this is coming out, but preview for the first advanced one. Customer service shows up and says, we just sent out a lot of emails from our primary email address that people get, and it's for a pharmaceutical ad of some nature. It's like that, and we don't do that, so what just happened? So, and that happened to me. That did happen to me, and it also is a comic. So, and then after that, let's just say 15 minutes to a half an hour diagnosing. So you got to do diagnosis first. And then from there, they got to come up with a solution. And I'm going to give read access to my AWS account to anybody on there, but I'm not going to give you write access. So you get to tell me the solution. I'm never giving anybody else write access to that. And then from there, last 15 minutes, after action report. I kind of give them a peek behind the scene. What did I do? And how could you have improved, the speed at which you diagnosed the situation? So.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Are you recording these for like creating a YouTube channel where people can watch it after the fact?
Yes. I mean, one thing I thought about is that part of the need for this thing is that there's so many AI generated resumes out there. It's tough for people, software engineers, DevOps people, to stand out in that stack of resumes. Also, so many people using AI to code, and I'm not against that, but the standard coding tests don't work so well. So I want them to record it, and I want them to be able to share this with prospective hiring people. On the other side of this, if you're hiring people, how do you know that they're actually able to problem solve it all? Don't you want to kind of get a feel for it? Don't you want to see if they are collaborative in nature, or they're more like, I'm going to just go heads down and not tell anybody what I'm thinking? You want to get a feel for that. Maybe you want one or the other, but this could be a really powerful hiring tool, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, because then you get like a little insight into what it's like to work with this person under pressure, which is everything that you want to know before hiring a person, but have no way to test it.
Yeah, and then the flip side, it's a great way to inoculate yourself to stress. I see so many developers, and the CEO comes running in saying, "We're losing money, and they're screaming and everything. And they're just like, "Oh, yeah," they lock up, and this inoculates you from the stress. We talk about, back to my gymnastics career, I'm pretty good at dealing with this type of stress, because in my gymnastics career, if you're spotting somebody and you mess up, that you could significantly injure or harm an athlete. Some rich guy loses a bunch of money, but no one dies. And so if you put that in that perspective, it makes it easier to handle this stressful situation.
There's not a lot of opportunity to practice emergency situations in the context of tech, right? And so the only time we're in that situation is when we really mess up. Some companies do, like, there is this idea in the industry, oh, you should, practice your run books, databases being down, regional failures, et cetera. But I think that a majority of companies, the ones who need to practice it the most, because they are often too much in firefighting modes, are exactly the ones who don't practice it. So, this could be more than just a hiring tool, realistically. This could be like out of band practice for engineers at any company to sign up and be like, hey, go through this equivalent, live training, right? Continue education on how to do these things. How you're going to respond in that situation, and then potentially be graded or get feedback on how they can improve.
Yeah, I could see myself bringing this into a large company, and then looking at their infrastructure, setting up a drill similar to their infrastructure, and knocking it over and doing trainings internally. There's all sorts of options. Back to the kind of individual side, I'd love to have a leaderboard and championships eventually. I've got ideas for all sorts of fun stuff to do. But I think there's a lot that can be done with this.
Could be like the next iteration of like e-gaming, like the professional gamers. Yeah,
you're actually not just. I am a gamer, obviously, but a little more productive than just your Fortnite. So I think I saw, Will, you're into CrossFit. I could see the CrossFit games for ops people, for infrastructure people.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm sure no one ever heard me say this before, but when I'm done with work, what I want to do is go home and play another game, play a game that's exactly the same as what I do for work every day. With higher stakes potentially than what I'm doing at work.
Yeah, I'm hoping people do that. So far, it seems like people are interested.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
sounds
I
like
think
the
it's
response has
exciting.
been great. Yeah. And I think it's like, well, I'm going to make that a little stronger statement. I know that there are a lot of people who are early in their career, and DevOps is one of those industries that it's so hard to get into because you can't get into DevOps without having DevOps experience, and you can't get DevOps experience without working in DevOps. And this actually gives you a way to solve that problem.
That is Thursday's comic, by the way. You have to have 5 years of experience for this entry level job or whatever. You know, how do you have chicken and egg? This might
Yeah, I mean,
solve that problem, though. You know, to
yeah, I
some
mean,
extent.
I think it's sort of the same thing though, where like people don't leave the university and go directly into a executive role. Where realistically, I think one of the most important aspects of DevOps is sort of understanding the connection of the business and what you're trying to execute and running it and how that impacts the technology and what it actually means for uptime and providing that as a value add to whoever your users or customers are. And I think, one of the huge challenges there is that's just not really something you're taught in any level of education system. Like you don't go to your chemistry class or your physics or calculus and be taught about how that provides value to end users somewhere and how critical that is. I mean, because if you were, then you could sort of maybe make the jump there. But I feel like that's one of the biggest things: the lack of experience, but also the lack of attention to how to utilize those skills in a real world environment. And I think that like the email sent out that has a business impact starts to scratch that. It's not just that there is an emergency situation. It could just be about a debugging experience. Like, how did this happen? But understanding that there is a real impact to real customers somewhere, that someone will care and money is getting lost. I think that's the sort of thing that a lot of people are insulated throughout their academic career.
Yeah. It's the I see engineers making a lot of decisions based on ones and zeros and not dollars and cents. Wow, I like that tagline.
Right?
But I see it, yeah, I see it happen. And as a business owner, I have to take into account the bottom line. Recently, I had a major outage for one of my clients right before the holiday season. And we had to triage. We actually had to decide to have a bunch of different domains, kind of. It's not Coke or Pepsi or anything, but think about how like Pepsi owns Mountain Dew and it owns KFC or whatever, it owns Taco Bell. Well, one of those, Mr. Pibb was down, was causing the traffic to Mr. Pibb was causing every other site to have problems. It rippled across the whole system. And we had to triage that and say, listen, we don't sell that much Mr. Pibb. Shut it down. We don't care. So you've got to, it's interesting. We had to do that in real time while firefighting that. It was a pretty exciting day, but same type of concept I see with the open source software versus paying Amazon. If you're a big company, you've got thousands of people and you can save millions of dollars, it makes sense to host your own cluster of XYZ. But if you're a smaller company and you forget the engineers forgetting that, oh yeah, my man hours are being wasted maintaining this thing, and we're only getting an ROI of 1/3 of what my man hours are spent, what they're paying me to maintain this cluster, then what are we doing it for? So that's a very important skill that, yeah, you're right. They don't teach in school.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's something I've said on this podcast at least a billion times. Like, no company cares about how tight and compact and efficient your Docker file is. And because they only care about what value it's providing to the customers who are paying money to that business. And I think that's the biggest career advice anyone in this industry can learn is your technical skills are a tool used by the business. They're not the product.
Mm-hmm. And to be clear, I'm not saying there's one right answer for the other. You've got to take into account the bigger picture and say, we're a company this size, how much time should I be spending on this, or is that moving the needle for the company?
Right.
Because you always got to pick what, is important there. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was done. That was it.
I mean, I think this goes in another direction as well. And I'm sort of curious your perspective, Matt, is that right now I know there's allegedly the job economy is not great for knowledge workers. And I'm curious if you see particular opportunities in some way, or really like how do you stand out? What are there particular things that do help engineers in this area or throughout the industry stand out compared to, we talked about AI generated resumes, or other aspects that they could really lay on. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, tons. um, the first thing is that with I'm actively talking to several companies that are creating large language models, LLMs, to basically replace me and my designs, so they can just put in words and then spits up Terraform and it goes. They're not there yet. They're a long way from it, be able to maintain it, but they'll get there. So that means I'm out. That's my whole job there. But just like elevator operators back in the day, when's the last time you saw an elevator operator? Been quite some time, so that, who wants to stand in a hot box with people's, enclosed space like that, especially after COVID and everything? Oh my gosh, no. So, no more elevator operators, but they need engineers to maintain those things. Those things fall apart. That could be real bad for you. So you've got to evolve. That's something that I can't emphasize enough, is to evolve and change your skills. Holding on to that position, like, okay, I'm going to be the one typing in the code for the CSS or pixel pushing. And like, no, you want to be a step above that, and you want to find that next step. So things I do to stand out. I mean, I make sure they see my face. I do a ton of content on stuff. I try and, basically, I mean, I'll be honest with my content. Sometimes I'm just reading in the news, and that way they see my face and they can recognize me there. But that's something I personally had to get over. I'm an introvert, oddly enough. I probably don't seem it, but an introvert by nature, extrovert by necessity. So, don't be afraid to make videos about stuff. One of my videos from, this always bugs me, I did a video where I was trilaterating Wi-Fi signals in between projects to track down printers and different things, just because I was bored out of my mind, and I put it on YouTube, and it's still one of my most popular videos. And I don't do that. I have no cap. So do stuff like that. The communication, that's a huge skill. You need to, I mean, even if you're typing into an LLM, some guy in a suit is going to come up and say, hey, we need this bigger picture thing. And then you can, sure, go ahead and type to an army of LLMs and have it generated. But if they can't do that prompt, there's value to you doing that. So find a way to bridge that gap between human and machine. We're just changing the way that works, So find ways to add value to other people. That's one thing I obsess over my clients. It's like, I'll help my clients source other developers. Now that this tool here, my winners, I'm going to send right to my clients. Be like, you need a guy, need a girl, they need a person, whatever. Here you go. This one just won. This one solved my puzzle in 2 seconds flat. So that's what I would do. Get out and communicate. That's it. You give them a wide surface area and don't communicate the same way everybody else does. There's a reason I use pixel art everywhere. People remember it. I love my clients to death. They gamed as kids. We're at the perfect age of the game as kids. They remember, Mario Bros. And so they see that and they remember it. So stand out and communicate, quite a bit.
I love the perspective on spend some time creating content, because, it really does resonate with there's only so much you can do of practicing leak code interviews or learning a new programming language, but, really take that next step of doing literally anything else. If everyone's focusing on tech, focus on creating content or making some artwork or, using LLMs or whatnot, or hand drawn or, making comics, because that is some way that you can really stand out. You can put on your resume, oh yeah, and also all of these comics are me, right? This is something about me that really stands out, that's unique for who I am compared to everyone else who's trying to compete for the same job. I think right now I think this is always true. It's always now is the best time to, say, even start your own company. I see a lot of resumes are practice projects by engineers who are interested, oh, I made a recommendation engine or I made this other thing. And the most important question I always ask is, why did you do that? What was your end goal here? And it's oh, I just wanted to do a project. I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't really mean anything to me. You had no bounds, no restrictions, no constraints on what you were doing. You just went wherever you felt like it. What's way more interesting is, oh, I was actually trying to make a business, or I was actually trying to automate my my pictures being uploaded to LinkedIn or whatever. And like, I had a real problem that I actually needed to solve. And this is how I went about solving it. That's a way more interesting thing to hear as a potential interviewer. So, the content's great. The webcomics are great. Anything that really makes you stand out as an individual.
Yeah. Another thing that just pops into mind is you ever hear of the T skill set? You don't want to be a generalist. If you can find a niche that's in demand, then folks are. I think my AWS niche for my consulting business is too wide. I'm trying to figure out how to zero that in. Like maybe I'm just going to do WAF, or now that I've got these trainings, I'm probably going to focus on that. But I was thinking about just being the WAF command or web application firewall because I fight DDoS attacks all day long, and I could do a whole course on that. Would teach a whole course on that. So, but yeah, find a niche that's in demand and dive on in. And I've got a Discord full of a hodgepodge of random developers, and they have these really cool projects, but that are niche, and they just don't showcase them. They tell you about it in text. It's like you've got cameras everywhere. Your computer, you can record the screen, just screen record it, and show this cool project, off as much as you can.
Yeah, it's definitely we're moving from like a technical marketplace to a creator marketplace, and I think what both of you are saying really highlights that. It's the technical skills are the foundation, but then as the creator, you have to showcase and market those to make you stand out, and then identify here's the thing that I do. Like on the T, you've got the top line of the T here where everyone has the same skill set, and then here's where I go deep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not saying don't learn things outside your purview, but don't make that your public facing persona. I know how to do a lot of things. I could do WordPress. Won't mention that to anybody ever, but stay with. I publicly I have a very particular thing I talk about. And you get a very short amount of time to get people's attention right now with all the spam and garbage out there. So you've got to figure out a way to do that very quickly and find people that have your problems. Not everybody, I solve $1 million problems for some of my clients. Not everybody has those problems. You've got to find the people that have you are the aspirin to their headache, so yeah. Be very aware. Don't just cast a wide net and try and pitch to everybody. Find the businesses that are suffering from your stuff. I mean, I've got criteria that I use for lead gen where they run on AWS, great. I have a very specific size requirement. I don't want to be too big. If you've got an HR department, you're probably bigger than, you don't need me. And then if you've gone down recently, then I'm talking to you because you've got the pain. If your site's slowing down because you're growing too fast, I want to talk to you right away, and you want to talk to me. So if you have that criteria, then it makes it so you're focused. You're not just getting disheartened because you sent 1,000 resumes out to Glamo Joe's that doesn't have the need that you can scratch. You want to be like, this is your problem. This is my expertise. This is how I can solve that problem. This is how I've solved it 100 times. Case studies. It's a big thing I'm working on this year is getting more case studies on my website. Show them how you solve that exact problem. So I put a coin in me, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, no, definitely. I know. Now I'm going to ask you another question. Like the sort of issues that you see come up for each of your customers and from your experience, do you feel like they are sort of repetitive in any way? Like, oh, you've seen this problem before? Or do you see that some of these problems, like they are actually nuanced and new in some way that you haven't experienced?
Yes and no. The people problems I see, that pops up quite a bit. So I don't do a lot of hands-on work for my clients. I do advisory and oversight quite a bit. Yeah. So they pair me with the project manager and they say, we've got this problem, we want to scale up to this thing. I do a design and then I work with PM to hand that off to other people to do. So I train the people. I see a lot of people problems that are repetitive. The technology problem, yes, 9 times out of 10 is a security group problem. So that's true. But with that said, past that, there's always new technologies. We're getting DDoSed in ways I've never seen before. It's quite fascinating. Actually, I got just, if you guys will indulge me, I've got one kind of more prop like the game that you guys might find interesting real quick.
Oh, sorry about this.
Get the prop.
I'm going to digitize this. Oh no, the spinners. I lost the spinner. Oh well. So you talk about repetitive stuff. When I had some mid-level junior devs, a lot of times they'd get stuck on things, and they'd be like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. They'd come up to me, and a lot of times it became repetitive. So I took the top like 10 or 20 things that, I don't know how many things it is, that was happens, including check the security group,
Just
you
spin one
know,
wheel.
and I put a
That's
spinner
the
on
key.
this thing, and I said, you can't bug me till you've spun it at least, you know, I think I said three times, tried 3 different things on here. I'm like, you got to tell me you've already checked the logs. You've already RTFM. Okay. I'm not going to explain that abbreviation, but yeah, add more logging, you know. So this is actually coming soon to cloud war games. This will be, if they get stuck, we'll spin it for the beginners. I won't take this away for the advanced people.
This is like
So
your
that
hints.
was,
You get a free spin. You know, spin the
yeah.
wheel and.
Exactly. Yeah, phone a friend. Ask your peer before you come asking me. Like another junior might actually have this. Go work together, collaborate, people.
And not just in the same company. You know, I find that especially above the senior level, a lot of engineers haven't realized that they can go outside the company to solicit assistance. Like you don't need to pay someone, but there are communities out there that you can go to. And it's so ridiculous to me that like SMBs, like small, medium businesses, like not giant monoliths, you know, the FANG companies, et cetera, you know, at smaller sizes, you just don't have anyone that's more experienced than you in the company. You have no one to mentor you, no one to sort of bounce ideas off of. And they're like, well, what do I do? And I'm like, well, how many Discord servers are you in? Like I'm like in 30 or 40 or something. Like there are those out there where people, you know, are willing to provide assistance if you just ask the question publicly. And the idea that they're just not even, they don't even see this as an opportunity is like really great additional source of valuable information that you're missing out on.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the reason I am starting a community for my niche is that there's absolutely people are, you know, where do I go? Where do I go? I love that I've got these communities I can go to about my business and all that other stuff. But if you're an engineer and you know, for a smaller company at least, and you're running on Amazon, like there's probably no one else that knows more than you, and you need answers. And it's like, you could take a course, you know, or take a bunch of tests and get certified, but it's almost better to have that mastermind group, that community you bounce off. There's some additional value to it. So that's, with all the AI going on, you can ask ChatGPT all day, but you know, to have somebody else that actually breathes and has a pulse that understands your pain, even sometimes you just to vent to about like, oh, it's the security group for the 100th time. Why did I make that mistake again? You know, so I completely agree with you. I think that's a huge value in that. If you're not in one of those, you know, I would strongly recommend it.
Yeah, and it seems like Cloud War Games is going to be like a foundation for helping you identify those groups, because you get in, you start working with people that you don't know, and then you just start chatting from there. It looks like those are just going to naturally form as a result of this.
I would love that. I hope there's some, because you do get some good relationships that are formed in foxholes, so to say. You know,
right.
When you're under fire there, it's like, you know, if someone cracks under pressure, you know. But I've got some guys that I'm pretty tight with because we've sweated it out, you know, in bad times, and you know, you'd be amazed how quickly you forge those relationships. Sorry, hopefully the audio is still good.
Well, I mean, the worse the situation is, the more interesting and honestly, the thing that you can sort of look back at later to sort of enjoy it, the better the story it is that you can, you know, walk through like, oh, there was these decisions that were made and there were problems there. And then you're able to tell that story later. Like it's a much better story. If everything just worked right all the time, like your job would be boring and you would leave after when you retire, be like, you didn't do anything. But the fact you can look back and be like, oh, like there was one time the website was down because someone did this and it took forever. Like that's a great story that you can tell.
Yeah. I tell my parents this stuff. My mom's like, you know, I don't know how you can handle this stuff. This sounds so bad. I'm like, well, if this stuff didn't go down occasionally, if we didn't get attacked like this, then I wouldn't have a job. So, you know, it's kind of like I find these kind of outliers. The problem is you design a system that's so solid it doesn't go down, so then they don't need you anymore. But luckily, the internet's full of evil people attacking us, so gives me a job. Sorry, that sounds weird to say that.
It's always opportunity somewhere.
Yeah.
Right on. So, you're literally just a week into Cloud War Games, right?
Less than a week, but yeah.
What was the trigger that made you decide to to start this?
So I had thought of it as a side part for my kind of community I was creating. 'Cause I wanted to help. I'm trying. My mission is try and find as many people that I can add value to their lives. And some of my big clients, that's great. But what if a mom and pop tiny little shop comes to me and needs something? I can't offer them as much one-on-one time. So I was like, I'll build a community, and then they can share information just like we've been talking about, and I can help more people. And it works out for all of us. But then I was in the mastermind group, and I was like, one of the events we're going to do is the wargaming, and they're like, no, that's the front and center thing. Like I could see companies hire you just to go in and do war games or all these other things. And they got me hyped up, and I'm like, I'll have it launched by tomorrow. And I said, I'll have a post, I'll have a video, and I'll have a landing page. And I tied my hands because I am the same way with I was like, no coding. Okay. You can't, no over engineering. Luckily I'm a horrible designer. So I was like, I'm not going to design. I'll just use a template. And I set up just on convertkit.com, this landing page. And I used Calendly to schedule the first couple, and I just wrote some emails there. So there's no coding because I do have a tendency to over-engineer if I allow myself. And
no.
Yeah. So here we are Monday morning, and I had 5 people signed up, and now it's doubled already. It's over doubled since then. So it's moving. And then now I'm on this podcast. So yeah, that was just the mastermind group. They focused me. It really was good. Just cut away the other stuff and focus,
Yeah, for sure. That's like another benefit of that is having people who will, well, like you said, just focus you, because we tend to over-engineer it and you think, oh man, I've got to have a website and I need a database to store the people's information and get their profiles, and I need authentication. But honestly, by having someone hold you accountable to it, you have the MVP in less than 5 days without having to do any of that stuff that's not actually going to test your idea or not.
Yeah, and I will say there's also some other factors here. It's a hot dog business, being as I had all these other ingredients just sitting around. Like I already have open source Terraform scripts I manage, and I used to run my entire infrastructure and some of my client stuff. So I already had that. And that's so I'm like, I could spin up a domain that we can knock down. Actually, I bought explodeme.com yesterday, which is going to be where we attack. So I can spin that up. I mean, it's not quite ready yet, but I can have it up in a few hours. So then all I got to do is take some of these scenarios that I've got written down, make them more formal, figure out, okay, this is what I'm going to do phase 1, phase 2, and I will put some hints in there and stuff. So I already just had these pieces of the puzzle ready to go, and that they were just gathering dust. And I'm like, all right, it's kind of like hot dogs. There's a bunch of other pieces of meat that you got, the little leavings of, you put them together, and now you got hot dogs and bologna or whatever else. It's like, so that was uniquely that I was lucky enough to have that, fortunate enough to have that.
Right on. How long have you been in the mastermind groups? How long have you been doing that?
Yeah, on and off throughout the years, but over the last 2 years, I really went heads down. I hired a business coach, and I think it was 2022. They didn't quite work out, but then I found this solo expertise one in 2023. The beginning of that was great. I actually ended up engaging the founder of that for a one-on-one coaching, and we met yesterday. He's phenomenal. And then I threw I found a parallel group that was more hands-off, smallbets.com. That then I found another person that was running another mastermind group that was more hands-on, and I jumped in with them, and I think I almost mentor them as much as they mentor me, luckily at this point. But yeah, that's what a mastermind group is. So that was about 9 months ago there, and I'm looking for more, and I'm probably going to start another one in the next few weeks.
Right.
Well, maybe months. I should say next few months. I'm going to finish Cloud War Games, getting that going first.
Right on. Cool. And then your cartoons that you release, where do you release those at for anyone who wants to see those?
I have my mailing list, my socials, and then I push them. if they're relative to Terraform, I push them into Terraform groups here and there, r/Terraform. If they're relevant, r/programmer humor, that's where I launch a bunch of them.
Right
Those are the ones where I get the most views. There was one that was relevant to something we said earlier that just came out last week, but I don't think I can connect the threads anymore. So
The one you sent that cracked me up was the Y2K one, because I know people that in 1999 they went into bunkers, and I've never seen them since. And so pretty frequently I wonder, like, wow, did they, because some of them were going to stay in their bunkers for like 10 or 20 years. And I was like, did they stay? Like, are they still alive? What happened when they came out? And I don't know where any of them are.
Yeah, I got to thinking, this could be an annual one because this actually I released on the 31st of December. But I got to thinking, what's the dumbest thing that you could go back into a bunker and live your life in hiding for? And JavaScript everywhere? What? And it had a little bit of a controversy to it because, of course, there's like half the internet hates JavaScript and half the internet's like, oh, JavaScript, let's put it in everything.
Right.
So that helped it. That definitely helped it go up the numbers.
For sure.
I mean, if people, I know about this controversy, and I wonder if the people who are against JavaScript will be more in favor or against whatever LLM generated programming language the whole world ends up utilizing in the future. I mean, we'll be forced by our robot overlords to use the one true programming language, whatever that is. And I wonder if they'll be okay with that, or whether or not they'll have wished to go back to the days of JavaScript and everything.
You just gave me an idea for a comic. This is we're arguing about JavaScript versus not JavaScript. But what about, we can all agree that people that use no-code solutions are fools.
Right. I think I probably get pinned in the anti-JavaScript crowd a lot, and I'm not anti-JavaScript. Like, the point I try to drill in there is that JavaScript's not always the right answer. Like, you don't hire a carpenter based on the type of hammer that they use. You hire them based on their ability to build a garage or a house or a fence or whatever you are. And I think JavaScript, to me, is a tool. And so JavaScript's not always the right answer. So it's not that I'm against JavaScript. I'm against saying JavaScript is always the answer.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely in my life on the, like, they're just, all the programming languages are tools. But, I've definitely come more around to the fact that every single one of these tools has some specific quirks which change the utility in the solution space that we're in. And so it actually is more important that we evaluate whether or not this tool, this language, what it implies, how it works, who the maintainers are, what their mentality for the long term is for the type of solution that we're building. And I feel like we're still very much stuck in the fact of whether or not people sort of like the tool itself. Like, I like hammers, I don't like hammers, rather than the company that manufactures the hammers is who we should be evaluating.
Yeah. My thoughts on JavaScript from a business standpoint are, this is probably a little dated now, but back in, let's just say, the mid 2010s, I can hire, if you're gonna write PHP and have a website, you're gonna need to have JavaScript in the browser, right? That's just, you can't run PHP in the browser. Same thing with Java, same thing with a lot of things. So a lot of these developers that I was finding had some amount of JavaScript background, and I found that you can repurpose, that little bit of JavaScript in the browser to run server side if you wanted to, much easier. So it was more of a cost efficient thing. I could take a PHP dev that's full stack and make them a Node.js dev without breaking the bank on that one. With that said, now with AI being a big thing, it would be silly to try and run neural networks in JavaScript. I know, because I've tried it. Probably not a good idea. So, but no, yeah, so you're right. You got to pick the right tool for the job. But it was strictly on like who could we can cast a wider net and hire people that have JavaScript experience, and so we can get a wider range of people coming in, better applicants, and ideally a better outcome. So that's that business, numbers. You got to kind of do that calculus as well. But again, you're right. Not the right tool for AI. Not the right tool for a lot of things.
Yeah, but it might be the right tool for your business because you just need a versatile programmer who can get shit done.
Yeah. If I'm hiring for the top Python devs, a lot harder to figure out how to hire those guys than just, top Java dev, JavaScript devs.
Right. For sure. So for people who want to go check out Cloud War Games, cloudwargames.com.
Cloudwargames.com.
Yeah.
Yep, that's where you find it. You can find me. This is the time where I'm supposed to kind of tell you all the different things.
I was trying to tee it up to let you plug the website, but then I just plugged the website for you and stole the answer out from under you. I butchered it.
For the release of the episode on the website, adventureanddevops.com, there'll be a bunch of blurbs along with whatever links you want us to post there. So if you want to just respond to us after the podcast, all of the things that we've talked about in this episode, for anyone who's interested, will all be listed there.
Sure. Okay. Well, yes, cloudwargames.com is where you can find that. Schematical.com, that's the word schematic with AL at the end, is where you can find most of my writing, schematical.com. And soon, I haven't announced this publicly, this is the first time I'm announcing it. I actually just spent the last 3 months of my life building a video course for O'Reilly's, the publishing company. An on-demand video course. They wanted me to say on-demand video course for O'Reilly Publishing. And so that will be live hopefully by the next 2 weeks or so, maybe by the time this comes out. So if you want to learn zero to hero on AWS security, an animated guide to security in the cloud, then it'll be there. So if I'm overplugging this, feel free to cut it. But
no, I'm super interested in this. So now this is an animated course on AWS security.
Yes, it is. Actually, if you want, I've got a diagram here that I queued up. Okay, we can cut this if you want, but if you guys want, we can play a micro round of Cloud War Games right now.
Let's do
it's
it.
Not real infrastructure. It's not real infrastructure.
Let's do it.
Can I present here? Share screen. So this right here, you guys tell me if you could see it.
We can. Now, anyone listening to the podcast can't, so I'm going to narrate it for them.
Okay. There we go. All right. We have our infrastructure here. This is a network map, all right? And we've got a user right here. So I'm going to go as fast as I can because I know I want to be respectful of your time, but a request come in, hits the application load balancer, hits the application server, then your shopping cart, so I should set the tone, e-commerce store. You're running an e-commerce store here. The shopping cart stored in Redis. So they say, hey, I want to buy this thing. It goes into Redis, goes back to the application layer, and now they've added it to their cart. And let's just say that they actually go to make a purchase, hits the application server. We're doing event-driven architecture. Maybe it's not the right one. All right, we're going to forget about the animation for now. Event-driven architecture pumps it to Kinesis. That updates the database saying a purchase was made. It updates the inventory management software. It updates the product worker, which charges them, and updates the mail service and all that stuff there. All right, I'm getting to the details here. Here's the scenario. Okay, customer service comes to you and says, we are getting reports that people are missing stuff in their cart. They're adding stuff to their cart, and all of a sudden when they go to check out, it's not there. They go to another page, it's not there. All right, what do we do?
So I'm going to highlight this real quick. We're looking at an animated diagram of an AWS environment, right? And is this part of the Cloud Wars Games interface?
It will be. It's not actually. This is running locally right now because I've never bothered to put it on a website, but it'll be up eventually. I'll use it locally if I have to. For now.
Right on. Okay, so there's stuff's missing from their cart. I'm assuming that the cart is persisted somewhere in some data store somewhere.
That is correct. It is in Redis.
Right on. So do we have a way to check the logs on Redis or check the whatever's writing logs to Redis?
It's running on Elasticache. Elasticache does have events. I don't know if you can get directly to the logs there, but you can log into Redis and run some stuff. You've got metrics too. Don't forget you do have CloudWatch metrics.
Go ahead,
Is
Warren.
I guess the first question is like, is the data in the database where it's supposed to be? If we're using Redis, like Redis
So,
Commander or something to tell us
yeah,
whether or not the items are actually in the shopping cart stored.
yeah. So you go in there, you've got, let's call it 100,000 keys, and you look at it, there is data in there. You can, I wouldn't do this step for you normally, but I'm going to do it just because I'm going to speed things along. You go in there and you try and add things to your cart. Of course, you add things to your
Yeah.
cart, you check your session key against it, and your stuff is in the cart there.
Does the cart for the customer who's complaining, are you able to have a session for that you can track to check to see if there are actual items for that session in the cart?
So this is where I want to get like a 5-sided die. Do you have a technical minded customer or not? Okay, you just rolled. You have a technical minded customer. They can open up their browser and copy the cookie for the session and send it to you. And so
Well,
yes, you have their session.
I mean, I always assume they're not a technical customer, and so you try to get
I'm
them
being-
to purchase some fake item in the cart that only their session will have access to.
See,
Or
this
give
is
them a magic URL, right? That allows
that's
you
brilliant.
to track it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I was just being nice because I don't want to be for the sake of time, but yes, I love that solution. See, this is the type of solution. I wouldn't have thought of that. I would have thought this is the type of stuff you can get with these type of games.
Well, we gotta debug this stuff for real all the time at our company. I mean, we're not e-commerce, but we do login and access control, and so it's always a point of contention. Like, why didn't this user have access to this resource at this particular moment? And so figuring that out, requires a bunch of things. So we have ways to give our customers information that they can inject into their environment when they're performing the sort of investigation that we can see on our side, so that we can highlight exactly which traces make sense. Otherwise, you're looking at all of the data for every customer in order to narrow that down. Yeah. So, I mean, you said technical customer or some magic solution, and are we getting their items in the cart, or is their session busted?
You check the session against the Redis database. You got the session key there. Items are gone. Not there. There's nothing there. There's nothing for that key. Key's gone.
So you mentioned Elasticache. I'm assuming that wasn't just randomly throwing out words. Where's that at in this pipeline?
Redis running on AWS is Elasticache. I just don't have Elasticache is a service that runs value key stores.
Okay, I got
a couple different ones, but I picked Redis. It's my go-to.
Gotcha. Understood. So they put something through the browser in the cart, never made it into Redis. Who's responsible for sending it to Redis?
To clarify, so just again, I'm giving you way too much here. I never said it didn't make it into Redis in the first place, just to be
Or
clear.
it just got deleted instantaneously. Like, by the time it gets to the cart, by the time you look at it, it's no longer there. So there could be some sort of TTL on the items that are going into the cart, or some other process that's eliminating them from Redis, or, of course, not getting there in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So so just to speed us along, I'm going to drop what I would give as a hint. That you do have CloudWatch logs for Redis, so you could ask me what they are saying.
Well, what are the logs saying?
So number of items is number of items went up, but flatlined. Okay. CPU usage is fine. Number of evictions is up quite a bit. Evictions.
Oh, so they got evicted. Yep.
And then I guess the usable memory dropped. So again, I'm going to simulate this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasted one of my real juicy ones, but I guess it's probably good here. So yeah, evictions are up. So what's the solution there?
So I don't use Redis a whole lot. So obviously, or it seems like Redis evicted for some reason because it either has like a max number of key values that it can store, or it ran out of space.
Yep, that is correct. It just runs out of data. You can set eviction policies, but in this case, I think the default is to just start evicting the older ones. And so that's what happens is it filled up. Maybe it was a big shopping day, and you didn't expect this many people to put stuff in the cart, and so it filled up. Or, I mean, I'm going to just kind of speed through this, but possibly you could look at it and some change made the payload of each key too big, so it's right. Like, we added something, and now we're caching like this whole structure, instead of just the product IDs and quantities, we're caching the metadata on the products. For some reason, somebody accidentally messed up and put that in there. So, and now it's just bloated. So the fix would, I mean, I'll let you guys present the fix if you guys have anything there. Now I've told you the problem.
I think the emergency fix is increase the size of Redis so that we.
That's probably what I would do, and then the long-term fix would be to fix the bug that had them cache all that stuff. Actually happened once. They had to cache a bunch of HTML in there that was like, I'm like, what? This is a JSON object with HTML in it. Like, what are you doing here? Stop caching that stuff in this thing. But it happened. So, yeah. All right. Congratulations. After action report and so on and so forth. So,
woo! Yeah, I mean, this is great. I'm actually sort of curious on the scenario. Is using Redis as a temporary store for the cart common pattern in e-commerce stores?
When at early stage, yeah. So a lot of my clients, I love them to death. Clients understand. They start off with something simple like WordPress, and they start slapping more things in there. Not the way I would do it. Okay, not the way I would do it. Because, I mean, there's a lot of data you can extract from carts. It's not ephemeral data. You want to know who's adding what, when, where. You can send a reminder emails, and all that stuff. But that a lot of times with devs, a lot of times it's just stuff everything in the session and then pray.
Yeah.
Okay? So,
I mean, I get the perspective of knowing that it's temporary data. It's not, the order hasn't been created yet, so storing it in a data store that may not be persistent. I also get the idea that people believe that Redis is this non-ephemeral data store, and go ahead and use it as your source of truth database. But in the mature businesses, as you said, like you actually don't even want to throw away that session data. As soon as you have it, you might as well be persisting it for permanency, so that you can evaluate, why didn't that convert to an actual order? Why didn't that person come back? And then once they do actually click buy and payment gets processed, you don't need to convert it from your temporary data store into a permanent one. You already have it there. The payment is sort of separate.
I'm actually trying to get you to exactly what you're describing for my the video I did on Amazon Glue, and putting that data in a long-term cold storage. Basically, telling people the difference between a source of truth, ephemeral, and long-term Redshift or big data analytics tools, data warehouse, data lake type situation.
This is one of your videos that's going on demand on O'Reilly, or?
No, that's my YouTube videos. The O'Reilly videos are specific to the security course, so you can see I have a bunch of that in here. But
I see.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing since I'm on camera.
No,
I didn't prepare that one.
Will's gone dark from me. He's got no camera on. He's hiding from the public.
Oh, I went anonymous.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is a good point to maybe wrap up the episode. Unless there's anything last words you want to share about Cloud War Games or your consultancy.
No, I want to thank you both for being the first participants, and I mean, it's somewhat of an unofficial capacity there, but thank you both for being the first participants. I know we kind of played a micro round there, but I invite you. Once I get this thing moving, I'd invite you guys to come and participate. And if you guys are game, maybe I come back and run a full-length game with you guys or something of that nature. So it's just throwing that out there if you're interested.
That'd be a blast, and would love to have you back on at any time. For that, and there's a bunch of other topics we like touched on here that I think would be cool to dig deeper on. Yeah, for sure. I'm all in.
It would be my pleasure. You let me know when, and I'll if another guest drops out, you come find me.
Right.
Will do. With that, should we move on to picks? Well,
we should loop. Man.
Words are hard.
Yeah, right. Just like to take this opportunity to point out to everyone that English is my native language, and I still screw it up.
You should see me editing my videos. A lot of swearing.
Oh, man.
Oh, for sure. I used to do quite a few YouTube videos and did some video courses and stuff. And my wife would always give me a hard time. She would say, I can always tell how it's going by how many cuss words I can hear coming out of your office.
Yeah.
Then at one point I made like a blooper reel where I just took all the cuss words that I cut out of all my videos and it was like an 8-minute stream of just some of the most offensive language that has ever been recorded.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Anyway, on to picks. Warren, you brought it up, so I'll go first. I'm picking a couple of weeks ago. I picked Kunk on Earth, the Netflix special, and I think that was when we had AJ Funk on, and he said that there was a new one called Kunk on Life, and so I watched that, and I thought Kunk on Earth was so great that there would be no way a follow-up to it could be as entertaining. And I'm happy to tell you that I was wrong on so many levels. So Kunk on Life, go check that out on Netflix. Just the sense of humor there and the dryness of that sense of humor had me just rolling on the floor laughing. Just absolutely amazing. And they accidentally made it educational as well. So go check that out.
Well, I definitely will, because I liked all of the other series by Philomena.
Yeah.
I guess that's her stage name and not not the actress's name. Okay. Mine is I guess I also have a show. So I read the books Three Body Problem by Leo Cixin. And this is actually one of the scenarios where I actually like the series better. I think the series is absolutely fantastic. I think some of the books are good, but the series, absolutely really well done. I really look forward to the follow-up seasons. If you haven't seen it or read the books, I highly recommend. There's a lot of good philosophical ideas that are brought up.
Okay. Give me the high level of what it's about, because I'm just assuming from the title, Three Body Problem, this is how to get away with murdering someone, but I may be wrong.
No, it actually has to do with the unsolvability of finding out without the initial conditions what the path and orientation of a solar system with three masses in it is.
Okay, that's not going to be as useful to me as I thought it was at first.
Without spoiling really that much, there is one of the very close solar systems in our galaxy to in the Milky Way to our solar system is one with three stars in it. And so there is a relation. It's science fiction, really good, philosophical dilemmas, absolutely fantastic. Well done.
Is that the Alpha Centauri system that you're referring to? Yeah. Because they originally thought it was one star and then found out that it was two binary stars in orbit with another star close by, I think.
Yeah. It's 4 light years away.
Right. Just across the street.
Yeah. So, Matt, what do you got for us?
So you guys, you got all this Einstein stuff. I did not come prepared for that. I've got the comic book Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Nice.
They do a lot of they do a lot of pixel art in there, and I've been dropping them on my desk, and I've been doing a lot of comic book stuff. So I'm like, okay, this would be a good thing to pick up. And I'm trying to look at screens less before bed. So I've been just reading through this lately. Not quite as not quite as big as interesting as the Three Body Problem, but helps me go to sleep. Yeah.
What was that last thing that you held up?
Scott Pilgrim versus the World is just that's volume 1, volume
I see.
2.
Oh, I see. I didn't know it was a written work of art.
Yeah, I believe that's how it started, and then I think they made the video game and then the movie. So
interesting.
But the video game, it was the guy that did the art for that is a guy named Paul Robinson, I think Probs G or whatever, and he's just a phenomenal pixel artist. And my work doesn't come close to his. I got a style that I can do in 2 seconds, but he spends like years building these amazing animations. It's phenomenal. So, yeah.
Right on. Cool. Well, Matt, thanks again for coming on the show. This has been a blast, and we will definitely have you back on. For everyone else, check out cloudwargames.com and anywhere else that you hang out. You hang out on like X, LinkedIn, any of that kind of stuff. What's your YouTube channel?
You can find me most of those places Schematical.
Okay.
I try and grab it anywhere I can. So
okay, yeah. So check it out on Schematical, and thanks for listening, and we'll see everyone next week.